In a world where everyone is stuck in their own problems, drowning in anxiety, anger, and endless distractions, people still say meditation is easy. But that only shows how deeply misunderstood it is. Meditation is not a way to escape your pain. It's the path that forces you to sit with it. It's not about clearing your mind. It's about becoming aware of how cluttered it truly is. When you close your eyes, you don't find peace. You find restlessness. You meet your fears. You feel your cravings. And you see clearly how attached you are to every thought and emotion. That's why real meditation is difficult, because it reveals the truth you've been avoiding. Buddhism doesn't promise comfort through meditation. It offers awakening. And awakening begins with discomfort. If you think meditation is easy, you've never truly faced yourself. Most people give up the moment silence begins to speak louder than their distractions, because in that silence, your wounds echo, your regrets surface, your ego trembles, and that's exactly where transformation begins. Not in escaping yourself, but in observing everything within you without trying to change it. Lesson 1. Meditation reveals the chaos you carry inside. The moment you sit down to meditate, you quickly realize your mind is not your friend. It jumps, races, resists. Thoughts pour in like a flood. Worries, regrets, random memories, future fears. You might have come seeking peace, but what you find is chaos. And that's the first lesson meditation teaches. The noise was never outside. It was always within you. You just never sat still long enough to hear it. Most people think meditation is supposed to make them feel calm right away. But Buddhism teaches otherwise. The calm doesn't come first. Awareness does. And what you become aware of is how distracted, reactive, and overstimulated your inner world has become. It's uncomfortable, it's messy, it's revealing. But that's the point. Meditation isn't meant to instantly soothe you. It's meant to show you what's truly happening behind the mask you wear every day. When you start to observe your mind without reacting to it, without trying to fix or escape it, you begin to see how much suffering is created by your own attachment to thought. You start to notice the patterns, how quickly you judge, how often you crave, how easily you get pulled into fear. These realizations aren't easy, they're humbling, but they're necessary, because you cannot purify a mind you refuse to observe. You cannot transcend a self you haven't yet met. So, don't be discouraged when meditation feels hard. That's how it's supposed to feel in the beginning. It's not a failure, it's a sign that the process is working. Because the storm you see during meditation, that storm was always there. Meditation didn't create it, it simply revealed it. This is the beginning of awakening, not peace, but perception, not comfort, but clarity. And through that clarity, the mind slowly begins to quiet, not by force, but by understanding. That is the true purpose of meditation, not to feel good, but to see clearly. Lesson 2. The mind will fight to stay distracted. When you begin to meditate, you're not just sitting in silence. You're going against everything your mind has been conditioned to crave. Your mind doesn't want stillness. It wants movement. It wants stimulation. It wants noise, chaos, and endless thinking because that's what it has grown used to. So the moment you try to quiet it, it rebels. It distracts you. It throws thoughts at you like weapons, memories, fantasies, to-do lists, fears, cravings, anything to pull you away from the present moment. And that's where the real work begins. Meditation, in its truest form, is the training ground where you learn to watch the mind without obeying it. You don't force it to be silent. You simply observe it. You don't try to control your thoughts. You witness them like clouds passing through the sky. This is not easy. It requires patience, discipline, and humility, because the mind will test you. It will whisper that you're wasting time. It will tell you that you should quit. And if you don't understand this process, you will believe it. But Buddhism teaches that the resistance you feel is not a sign of failure. It's a sign of progress. The more your mind fights, the more it reveals its attachments. And when you stop feeding those attachments with your attention, they slowly begin to lose power. So don't be discouraged when your thoughts scream during meditation. That's the mind learning to let go of its grip. Sit through the noise, breathe through the resistance, and trust that each moment you remain still, you are slowly reconditioning a mind that was once ruled by distraction. Lesson 3. Meditation is not about controlling the mind, it's about understanding it. One of the greatest misunderstandings about meditation is the belief that you must stop thinking, that you must somehow force the mind to be blank. But this is not what Buddhism teaches. Meditation is not about suppressing the mind. It is about understanding its nature. The mind is like a river. Thoughts will flow, emotions will arise, and sensations will pass through. Your goal is not to build a dam, but to sit by the riverbank and observe. The more you try to control the mind, the more it resists. But the moment you become a silent witness, without clinging to thoughts, without pushing them away, you begin to see how impermanent everything is. Thoughts arise and thoughts fall. Emotions swell and emotions fade. You begin to realize that you are not the mind. You are the awareness observing the mind. And in that realization, a space opens, a space between you and your thoughts, and in that space, freedom is born. You no longer react to every mental movement. You no longer chase every craving or run from every fear. You watch, you breathe, you remain. This understanding is the essence of mindfulness. It teaches you to live with your thoughts, not against them. To be aware, not to be in control. Meditation does not promise a quiet mind, but it gives you a calm relationship with the noise. And that calmness, born from understanding, is what slowly begins to transform your entire life. Lesson 4. The true pain is not the thought, it's the attachment to it. As you sit in meditation, one truth becomes clearer with every breath. It is not the thoughts themselves that cause suffering, it is your attachment to them. A thought is simply a thought, a passing cloud. But the moment you cling to it, identify with it, or believe it without question, that thought turns into a story, and that story becomes suffering. I am not good enough. I will never be happy. I need this to feel complete. These are not truths. They are thoughts dressed as facts, and yet most people live as if they are absolute. Buddhism teaches that clinging is the root of suffering, not just to possessions or people, but to ideas, beliefs, identities, and thoughts. Meditation helps you see this clearly. It creates a space between stimulus and reaction, between thought and belief, between what arises and what you choose to become involved in. You begin to see how quickly the mind reacts, how it attaches to praise, resists criticism, clings to comfort, and trembles at the idea of uncertainty. But once you see the pattern, you're no longer blindly trapped in it. You start to unhook yourself, not out of willpower, but out of understanding. You no longer need to control the mind. You simply stop feeding it with unnecessary attention. And in that moment of letting go, something shifts. The thought that once overwhelmed you no longer has the same power. The emotion that used to shake you now just passes like a gust of wind. You are no longer inside the storm. You are the sky watching it. This is where real freedom begins. Not when you stop having thoughts, but when you stop being ruled by them. Every attachment, every mental grip you let go of, leaves space for clarity to arise. And in that clarity, you begin to rediscover the simplicity of being. You start to see that peace was never something to find. It was something to uncover beneath all the layers you held on to. Letting go does not mean you don't care. It means you no longer carry the burden of needing things to go your way in order to be at peace. You release your grip, not because you're giving up, but because you've finally seen the cost of holding on. You don't need to fix every thought. You only need to stop believing every thought is true. You don't need to win every mental battle. You only need to realize that not every battle is worth fighting. This is the quiet power of non-attachment. And Buddhism doesn't ask you to become empty. It asks you to become clear. Clear enough to see that your suffering was never in the thought itself. It was in your refusal to let the thought go. We carry pain not because life demands it, but because the mind clings to it out of habit, identity, and fear. But meditation shows you another way, a path where the pain may arise, but it no longer controls your inner world. A path where you experience life fully, but without becoming enslaved to it. When you sit and allow the mind to do what it does without resistance, without chasing or suppressing, you experience something rare, inner spaciousness. And in that space, wisdom speaks. You begin to feel the difference between reacting and observing, between ego and essence, between noise and truth. You begin to experience the joy of being unattached, not cold, not distant, but deeply present, fully awake, and at peace with whatever comes and goes. And in that presence, you discover that true freedom is not found in controlling life. It's found in no longer needing to. Lesson 5. Real peace doesn't always feel peaceful. Most people think peace is a feeling, calm, relaxed, light. So when they meditate and feel discomfort, agitation, or heaviness, they assume they're doing it wrong. But Buddhism teaches something far more powerful. Peace is not always soft. Sometimes peace is fierce. Sometimes it comes disguised as stillness in the middle of your most painful thoughts. Peace is not about escaping what's hard. It's about not being shaken by it. It is the deep inner steadiness that arises when you no longer resist the moment. In meditation, the mind may be loud, the body may ache, old wounds may rise to the surface. But even in that discomfort, there can be peace. Because peace is not the absence of difficulty, it is the presence of acceptance. The mind expects silence to feel good, but silence is simply space. And in that space you are forced to meet what you've been avoiding, the past you haven't healed, the emotions you've suppressed, the identities you've clung to. And so peace at first feels like loss of who you thought you were, loss of control, loss of all the false comforts the ego built to keep you busy. Meditation strips that away, not to punish you, but to reveal who you are beneath all of it. And that process is not always gentle. It is cleansing. It is dismantling. You sit in silence and the ego panics. You let go and fear rushes in. You try to relax and suddenly all the tension you've been holding in your body for years comes crashing into awareness. That's not failure, that's healing. Because peace is not a shallow smile or temporary relief. Peace is when you are no longer afraid to be with yourself, no matter what arises. It is the deep knowing that everything is passing, that nothing needs to be fixed, and that your value doesn't depend on how you feel in this moment. It's not about making the pain go away. It's about learning how to sit with it, breathe through it, and not lose yourself to it. That is strength, and that strength, over time, becomes peace. True peace is stable. It doesn't rise and fall with circumstances. It doesn't depend on external validation. It doesn't need things to be perfect. It simply is. It's the unshakable center that remains even when everything else is fallen apart. And that kind of peace is not found in comfort. It is found in discipline, in showing up to your practice when it's hard, in sitting through the silence when your mind screams, in breathing through the urge to quit. Buddhism doesn't offer a shortcut to happiness. It offers a path to liberation. And liberation isn't about feeling good. It's about being free. When you realize that you can remain calm in the storm, that you can observe pain without becoming it, that you can sit in the fire without needing to run, you've discovered a peace that cannot be taken from you. It is not dramatic. It is not loud, but it is powerful. It is the quiet revolution within. The peace that arises not from controlling life, but from no longer needing to escape it. And once that peace is found, it becomes the foundation of everything. You begin to speak with more compassion because you no longer speak from restlessness. You begin to listen more deeply because you're no longer trapped in your own noise. You stop trying to prove your worth because peace has already confirmed it. You walk lighter, think clearer, and live more fully. That peace touches others without trying. It heals without effort. It radiates without noise. It becomes who you are, not something you do. And it all begins the moment you stop chasing peace as a feeling and begin practicing peace as a way of being. The real victory is not when the world becomes quiet. It's when your mind does. Because in that silence, the truth reveals itself. And once you've touched that truth, even for a moment, you'll never again search for peace in the noise. You'll carry it within you. And that inner stillness becomes your temple, your refuge, your response to the chaos. It doesn't mean life stops testing you. It means you no longer break when it does. You bend, but you don't collapse. You feel, but you don't drown. You stay grounded even as the storm moves through you. And that in itself is the highest form of strength, because nothing can destroy the one who has made peace with stillness. Lesson 6. Meditation doesn't remove suffering. It teaches you how to suffer consciously. Many people turn to meditation hoping it will erase their pain, remove their problems, and give them a life without struggle. But Buddhism offers a deeper truth. Meditation does not remove suffering. It teaches you how to suffer with awareness, with grace, with presence. Life will still bring you moments of loss, uncertainty, heartbreak, and fear. But instead of being consumed by them, meditation helps you sit with them, breathe through them, and learn from them. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and begin to ask, "What is this teaching me?" That subtle shift is the essence of transformation. Meditation trains you to no longer react blindly to pain, but to observe it like a patient teacher revealing what is unhealed within you. You begin to notice your habitual reactions, how quickly anger rises, how easily you fall into blame, how fast your mind races toward fear. And instead of suppressing these reactions or pretending they don't exist, you welcome them with mindful attention. You say, "I see you." And in that recognition, something shifts. The emotion doesn't control you anymore. It becomes a visitor, not a master. This is not emotional numbness. This is emotional clarity. You feel everything, but you are no longer lost in it. Meditation reveals that pain is not the enemy. Unconscious suffering is. Because pain will always visit, but your freedom lies in how you respond. And when you learn to suffer consciously, something miraculous happens. Your suffering becomes lighter, not because the circumstances have changed, but because your relationship with them has. You stop clinging to the idea that things must go your way to feel okay. You stop resisting life, and in that letting go, you find a space of inner calm, even in the face of chaos. You cry, but you do not collapse. You break, but you know you will rebuild. You hurt, but you remain aware. That awareness is the true refuge. It allows you to sit with your suffering, not as a victim of life, but as a student of it. This kind of presence is rare, and it's sacred, because it means you are no longer afraid of discomfort. You are no longer driven by the urge to escape. You no longer need the world to be soft for you to stay soft within. This is the wisdom meditation builds, not immunity from life, but intimacy with it. You begin to experience pain without adding extra layers of resistance, judgment, or identity. You no longer say, "This pain defines me." Instead, you say, "This pain is passing through me." And that simple truth, that everything is temporary, becomes not just an idea, but a lived experience. You stop trying to fix every emotion. You stop trying to escape every low moment. You just breathe. You just observe. You just be. And in that quiet, a deeper power awakens, the power to suffer without bitterness, to feel without reacting, and to endure without losing your center. Meditation doesn't promise you a life free from suffering. It offers you a mind strong enough to carry it, and a heart open enough to grow through it. And when you grow through suffering instead of running from it, it leaves behind something beautiful, wisdom, a kind of inner maturity that no book or teacher can give you, a grounded understanding that even the darkest nights carry lessons. And slowly, you become grateful, not for the pain itself, but for what it awakened in you. You no longer fear hard moments because you've seen who you become when you survive them. And that quiet courage is the essence of the spiritual path. Lesson 7. Consistency is the path, not intensity. In a world obsessed with speed, results, and performance, meditation is often approached like a race, something to win, something to master quickly, something that should provide instant peace or power. But that mindset itself is the very illusion that meditation is meant to dissolve. Buddhism teaches that the real path isn't found in force or intensity, but in quiet, steady consistency. It's not about how deeply you meditate once. It's about how faithfully you return again and again, regardless of how you feel. 1 hour of perfect stillness is not as powerful as 10 minutes of practice every day for years, because what truly transforms you isn't the feeling during meditation. It's the discipline of showing up despite what you feel. Most people quit because their practice doesn't match their expectations. They want bliss, insight, stillness. But what they get is restlessness, discomfort, distraction, and so they assume they're failing. But they're not failing, they're meeting the truth of their own mind. And to stay with that truth, to sit with it, breathe with it, and not run, is the highest form of practice. Consistency is not glamorous, it won't impress others, it won't even impress your ego, but it is sacred. It's the slow chiseling away of all that is false, all that is reactive, all that is conditioned. Each sit, even the ones that feel empty, is a declaration that you are no longer letting your mind run your life. Every time you return, you weaken the grip of impulse and strengthen the roots of awareness. You build a foundation that doesn't crumble in chaos. The results are quiet at first. You won't notice them until one day you don't yell back when provoked, until you pause before sending a message written in anger, until you smile, not because something made you happy, but because you feel free inside your own stillness. That is what consistency creates. It doesn't give you control over life. It gives you mastery over your reactions. And that mastery comes slowly, like water smoothing stone, like breath training the nervous system, like discipline reshaping destiny. Even if your meditation feels clouded, even if your posture isn't perfect, even if your thoughts don't stop, show up anyway. Because meditation isn't about what happens in the session. It's about what kind of person you become between sessions. You begin to walk differently, speak slower, listen deeper, think clearer. You gain the quiet power to stop reacting and start responding. And that shift is everything. It's the difference between peace that depends on the world and peace that radiates from within. True practitioners are not those who meditate when they feel like it. They are the ones who meditate when they don't. Because they understand that practice is not a mood, it's a commitment, a vow to themselves. A path walked not in leaps, but in steps. Not with noise, but with presence. So forget the chase for intensity. Forget the need to feel profound every time. Choose the slow path, the quiet path, the path that asks you to return, even on the days when you'd rather escape. And you will discover that peace is not a peak, it's a rhythm, a heartbeat, a way of living. With every breath, you plant a seed, and over time, with consistency, those seeds bloom into the unshakable garden of your inner life. A life that no longer reacts with panic, but responds with wisdom. A life not ruled by emotion, but guided by clarity. A life where meditation is not something you do, but something you are. And when that practice becomes woven into your days, like sunlight into the sky, you'll realize something profound. Your life itself has become the meditation. The way you walk, the way you pause, the way you respond, all of it becomes sacred, no longer separate from your practice but born from it. This is the gift of consistency, not just transformation, but integration. Meditation off the mat, stillness in motion, presence in the middle of real life. Lesson 8. You don't control the mind by force, you soften it through compassion. Many approach meditation with a hidden agenda, to conquer the mind, to silence it, to force it into obedience. But in Buddhism, control is not the goal, understanding is. You don't silence the mind by wrestling it into stillness. You calm it by treating it like a frightened child, gently, patiently, with compassion, because most of your thoughts are not enemies. They are messengers. They are wounds that haven't been heard, stories you've carried for years, fears that never had the space to breathe. And when you sit in meditation and try to force those thoughts to disappear, you create more resistance. But when you say, "I see you," and allow them to rise without judgment, something extraordinary happens. The mind begins to soften. It doesn't feel attacked, it feels seen, and in that seeing, it slowly begins to settle. Meditation is not a battle to be won. It's a relationship to be healed. You're not at war with your thoughts. You're learning how to coexist with them without being consumed by them. Every time you return to the breath, you are not just disciplining the mind, you are comforting it. You are saying, "It's okay to feel, it's okay to think, but I don't have to follow you anymore." This is a radical shift, because instead of trying to destroy your inner noise, you learn to sit beside it. And that is where real transformation begins, not through domination, but through deep compassion. You start to recognize the patterns, the voice of self-doubt, the tension of perfectionism, the echo of old guilt. And instead of suppressing these things, you learn to hold space for them without becoming them. That is the essence of mindfulness. Not rejection, but recognition without attachment. You begin to offer kindness to your own restlessness. You stop demanding silence and start building trust. And in time, the mind, like any living thing, begins to respond to that kindness. It becomes less frantic, less reactive, more open, more steady. And this is where the deepest peace comes from, not from force, but from friendship with your own inner world. Buddhism doesn't ask you to fight yourself. It asks you to awaken to yourself, to return to the present moment, not to escape your thoughts, but to stop being ruled by them. And in that return, again and again, you begin to understand something profound. Your mind does not need to be defeated. It needs to be understood, accepted, and gently guided home. Over and over. That is how you tame the chaos, not with pressure, but with presence. And that presence becomes your power. True strength is not the absence of emotion, it's the capacity to sit with it fully without being overwhelmed. It's choosing kindness in moments of mental struggle. It's breathing through confusion instead of panicking. It's embracing discomfort with the same warmth you give to joy. And that is the ultimate compassion, not just toward others, but toward yourself. Because when you become safe within your own awareness, there is nothing left to run from. And in that stillness, the mind finally knows it is allowed to rest. Most people will never go beyond the surface. They'll sit once or twice, feel discomfort, and walk away thinking meditation isn't for them. But not you, because if you've made it this far, you understand now, this path isn't about instant calm or quick enlightenment. It's about courage. The courage to face yourself when it's uncomfortable. The strength to sit with your pain instead of numbing it. The wisdom to return to silence even when your mind is screaming. Meditation isn't the easy path. It's the honest one. And honesty with yourself is the highest form of growth. You don't need to force peace. You need to keep showing up, breath by breath, moment by moment. This is the journey of awakening, not loud, not dramatic, but steady, sacred, and transformative. In a world full of noise, your stillness is revolutionary. And in that stillness, you don't just find peace, you become it.